Okay, the purpose of this lecture video is to review the different perspectives in psychology today. What you should do is you should watch the video, okay, have your notes in front of you, have the definitions of the different perspectives out, and basically write 1 to 3 questions that a psychologist in each perspective would ask. So for example, if you were a behavioral psychologist, your question would definitely focus along the terms of awards and punishments and how the character will react. In this video, you could focus on either the two ninjas, the male ninja or the female ninja. So the questions should pertain to their behavior or their mental processes. Okay, at the end of this video, I will give you some answers or possible answers to the questions that could be asked, along with definitions and explanations of each perspective. An example of the type of questions you may ask, once again for the behavioral psychologist, may be, how would the ninja act if given money? Would their behavior change? That's just one lame example. Here's a video. Okay, the first perspective that we'll look at is the biological approach. And if you look at the definition, basically says it emphasizes the activity of the nervous system, especially the brain, hormones, chemicals, anything that's biological. The key question that you'd want to ask here is basically which part of the brain causes the ninjas to experience the emotion of love. Science has shown that if there's specific parts of the brain removed, therefore people will act differently. So for example, let's say if we took out the amygdala deals with emotion, we know for a fact that the female ninja would no longer fall in love or would not fall in love with that male ninja. Question number 2, what happens if the hippocampus of the female ninja is destroyed? That's a great question. Reason being is the hippocampus deals with memory. If you watch the movie 50 First Dates, where Drew Barrymore's character ends up getting a brain injury, she's not able to remember her lover. In this case, the same thing would happen to the female ninja. The evolutionary approach, what this emphasizes is the way in which behavioral and mental processes are adapted for survival. So what I want you to think about there is simply that things are passed on, genes are passed on in order to survive. So we'd make the argument there is perhaps that the height, weight was passed down from generation to generation. Alright, the next approach would be the psychodynamic, also known as the psychoanalytic approach. What I want you to think about here is there's basically internal conflicts due to uncomfortable events that happened in the past. So think about it as, for example, let's say as when you were a young child, you were bit by a dog, it was so uncomfortable that you decided to take those memories, repress, which means hold them back so that you would no longer remember them. Well, what these type of psychologists believe is that these type of events slowly come out your unconscious mind and impact the way that you act. So, for example, a question you could ask for the cartoon was, what had happened in the female ninja's childhood where she is so defensive to love, or she is so defensive to males? Psychoanalytic psychologists may suggest that maybe that the female ninja had a problem with a father figure. Therefore, she felt so uncomfortable, she decided to repress those memories, hold them back. However, those memories slowly start to come out and affect her behavior. Okay, next one is the behavioral approach. The key thing is how people respond to their environment, specifically due to rewards and punishments. In this case, the punishment would obviously be the heartbreak. Let's just conclude that the male ninja was so heartbroken that the female ninja used violence and did not accept the rose that he provided. What the behavioral psychologist will respond is how will that heartbreak now affect the male ninja's behavior from that point on. So key thing with the behavioral approach is rewards, punishments, and how do people learn and react to that. Okay, a key thing about the cognitive approach is it focuses on how people receive, store, and memorize information. Basically, things about our thinking process. How is it that it works? A couple questions that people may ask is number one, how will the female ninja remember the male's number? Once again, we stated it focuses on memory. How is it that she will go about memorizing it? Will she remember? Will she write it down? Will she create a nursery rhyme to remember the number? Will she create a song? Another question you can ask is how did she interpret the note at the end of the movie? In terms of thinking, how is it that we perceive information? Did she look at that note as, man, that male ninja is creepy. I just met him and now she wants my number and wants me to call him? Interpretation, thinking, those are the things that the cognitive approach focuses on. I mean, think about it. If someone were to ask you out on a date, you've never met them, how would you interpret that? These type of psychologists would really look at your thinking process. Okay, well, the key thing with the humanistic approach, what I want you to focus on is the keyword human, and ask yourself, what makes humans different from computers and robots? The way these psychologists would answer are two things. Number one, motivation, and number two, emotion. So the couple questions that you could ask for that cartoon, if you were a humanistic psychologist, would be what motivates the male ninja to reach out to the female ninja? So in terms of emotions, why is it that he goes ahead and takes that risk and tries to win her over? Why did the female ninja perceive the male as a threat? Once again, you're not looking at necessarily the thinking process. What you're looking at is the emotions. How did she perceive the emotions? In a socio-cultural perspective, society influences the way that people act. The norms, the religion, the expectations influence the way that we treat one another, influence the decisions that we make. That's what the socio-cultural perspective focuses on. A key question you could ask in terms of that video would be, how did society's expectations shape the male ninja's behavior? So let's say, for example, that society expects males to go through some courtship in order to win the female over. Therefore, the act of violence may be necessary. Or let's say society expects females to play hard to get and make sure that males must go through hardship in order to win her love. That's a societal norm, and it definitely does influence the way that people behave.